Every nation in creation has its favorite drink. France is famous for its wine, its beer in Germany. Turkey has its coffee, and they serve it blacker than ink. Russians go for vodka, and England loves its tea.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Tea and Toast with me, Lewis Bennell, and my good friend David Pinner. In this week's episode, we're talking about Skyforge. If you haven't heard of the game before, it's a free-to-play, third-person action MMORPG developed by a company called Mail.ru and their subsidiary, Allard's team. If you've never heard of either, you'll probably know Mail.ru as My.com on Western Shores, and as you might guess, Allard's team are famous for the game Allard's Online. Skyforge does things a little bit differently than your typical MMORPG, and instead it uses a central hub and instance location system where players complete missions. As such, there isn't really a huge game world that you can explore freely, but instead you're teleported down onto the planet's surface to complete content. As I came to find out when playing, Skyforge feels somewhere between a traditional MMORPG, thanks to its combat system, and its limited action set, but it also borrows heavily from the likes of Terra, Age of Conan with its combo system, as well as Diablo 3 and Phantasy Star Online. Where the combat is concerned, and as you'll see from the video footage from Closed Beta Test 1, it's actually really fast and agile. Not all classes do have free movement while attacking, such as the Paladin, but the majority can. In addition to your normal auto attacks, most classes also have the ability to perform and undertake a variety of additional attacks. One of the standout features of Skyforge is the ability to change classes anywhere in the game world, allowing players to quickly change from, say, a gunner to a cryomancer at the touch of a button. In addition to that, it's got a pretty simple but deep itemization system, as well as a huge character progression system called the Atlas. Made up of 2 layers known as the upper and lower levels, you collect shards while you play and spend these to upgrade your character. Doing so improves your attributes, grants you skills, but it also allows you to unlock additional classes. Besides that, the game comes with an amazing set of social tools that are actually inbuilt into the game client, and it also allows players to customise their looks at any point regardless of where you are, so you can change your costumes on the fly. From what I've played so far, I'm really enjoying the game, but as usual, David and I are going to chew the fat for the next 10 minutes to decide what we both think. David, what's your first impressions of Skyforge now that you've had some hands-on time with the game?
Well, Lewis, I think that Skyforge is pretty much the most awesome game in the world. It's like, take Guild Wars with Phantasy Star Online, or even Phantasy Star Universe if you want to go that far. Phantasy Star Online 2. Original Guild Wars, a little bit of WoW, a little bit of Terra, mix it all together and add a sprinkling of Guild Wars 2 on top, and put it in Mythic's Project Impeter setting, and that's the game. And it's not this WoW clone where it's like, let's take these games and just recreate it. It's like, let's take the best ideas from all of these different games, like being able to change classes in Final Fantasy XIV, being able to do PvP and dynamic content and dynamic everything. I don't know, that's probably not the right way to say it, but all of these different features basically add into this veritable cornucopia of brilliant ideas with none of the downsides a lot of the other games have.
I think for me it's a weird one, and I think it's fast become my guilty pleasure for ways I just can't describe. It's an odd title, I think, because it does take a lot from everywhere else, but it keeps it in this sort of instanced, hubbed universe, and I think the design behind Skyforge is sensible. They haven't got the resources of Blizzard or ArenaNet, and so they've used this hub world that's very, very similar to Phantasy Star Online, and they've just ran with it. And although a lot of the instances at the moment are pretty simple, and you do revisit some of them a fair few times, they're actually really enjoyable. And besides Phantasy Star Online, for some reason, I might be absolutely batshit insane on this one, but it reminds me of Diablo 3, where it's fun by yourself, but not mind-blowing, but when you and I grouped up, it was infinitely better. straight away when you're both ploughing through the content and ploughing through those instances, picking a location, transporting down onto the planet, and then running through a load of mobs doing ridiculous damage to them. It's got that sort of addictive pick up and play quality that I think's lacking in a lot of most AAA games right now.
Yeah, it's like if it was like food, it'd be very umami. It's a guilty pleasure. It's literally just your brain is scrubbed and massaged by this game, just because it is this thing where, yeah, me and you got together, we just went down to the planet and just owned everything. And even in the instance, I could repeat that instance several times. Like, after they adjust the health a little bit, so that the 2 to 3 man like squad based adventures are not so health intensive of a battle. Like, obviously there's some rough edges, but once those rough edges get sanded down, I mean, that's really enjoyable. It's really fun. It's just this game that it's not artistic. It's not speaking to some kind of new like idea. It's taking all of these old tried and true ideas, combining them together, and then giving you the choice of what you want to do in the game. So you're not just locked into some like linear path. You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever class you want, and you can really do whatever content you want, because it unlocks, you know, the various maps. And once you defeat the quick, and I mean quick, story mission on a map, you get the next map unlocked. So you can repeat maps, which I love. I love the idea that once you leave a map, you can zone back in and your quests are available again.
I do actually. I think what took me by surprise so much is a couple of things. The first is the classes, the ability to change class on the fly, the simple and easy to understand itemization, but most importantly, I'd have to say the user interface and the integration with social systems. It's really clean in terms of the look and the usability. You can access forums in-game, you can access build tools in-game. It's really easy to track your story progress and the missions that you completed. I also love the fact that straight away you can change the outfits that you're wearing, free of cost at any time, anywhere, which is absolutely awesome for people that actually give a shit about how their character looks. And they've just taken these concepts of little things that people want and just dump them on you as soon as you start the game. I mean, I loved Wildstar, but one of the things that pissed people off was the fact that every time they wanted to change their appearance, they had to go back to the capital city, find the NPC, change what they looked like, and pay some money. It just does away with all that in Skyforge, and you can just do it any way you want. It's the same with the class system. You don't have to level and all. You can just change the class. And obviously, there are some limitations as you sort of go up the sort of progression system. I think they're called shards or sky shards, but I don't feel like I was penalised from changing from gunner to cryomancer or from cryomancer to paladin. I mean, I do have my favourite. Gunner I think is great, and I'm looking forward to giving the archer a go. But the Cryomancer was great as well. I think the only concern I have at the moment, and I think what some people have said, is in regards to possible grind when it comes to the Sky Shards, and really maxing out your class. And the other is the repetition of returning back to those instances. But we haven't got all the instances at the minute because it is in closed beta.
Yeah, I think that if you do think of it as Phantasy Star Online, returning to the instances makes a lot more sense, because that's what Phantasy Star Online is, right? You go to the map, you clear it, you go back up, you go back down on the map, you clear it, you go back up. It's very Diablo-ish, you know? I definitely think that if you do return, they need to add some variety. So maybe all the boss fights are the same, but now there's different kind of like random enemies around, or something to make that version of the map interesting. I think that would be very good. But yeah, I totally agree. I love the social element of it. Like, your own little game Facebook is so cool, because like that's like really nice, because not only can you like say like, oh, hey guys, I'm planning this, and your guild can all check on your like, I can't specifically pronounce the word, but basically game Facebook. Or you can even just use it to take notes. Like you can write a status update, like, I don't know. I love Skyforge. It's just so brain massaging.
I think you're right about going back to that instance issue. I think the only thing it needs is for locations to have paths. You land on the planet, it should have 3, 4, 5 paths. You complete one, they all lead to the same boss at the end. You complete one, you go back up. When you do come back down, that path will be closed and the next one opens, and it should be randomized, and the bosses should have random qualities when you actually reach them. It was one of the things I loved so much about Phantasy Star Online, because it allowed for speedrunning, but the bosses were great when you actually got there, and the fact there was some sort of different pathing, mixed it up just enough to actually keep your interest.
Yeah, that is true. Like, each tier of Final Fantasy opened a new path. I definitely think that would be a very interesting addition to it. I think we only have like a minute left. So, yeah, I just want to say, like, Skyforge is really fun, and I think people should definitely give it a go. It doesn't have the marketing budget of bigger games, but at the same time, it's really impressed me so far, and totally out of left field.
So if you would say, best thing about Skyforge, worst thing about Skyforge?
I think the best thing is the UI. Being able to change what you're wearing in your class anywhere you go is amazing, and that also includes class changing, which is phenomenal. Like Guild Wars, that's what made it the best, right? You can be whatever class in PvP. The worst thing I think is enemy health pools in the instances. I think they need to be tuned down a little bit. Grinding against a mob for half an hour isn't fun or challenging. But once they get that kind of stuff settled down, I don't know where I'll find anything bad to say.
I think for me, best thing, changing class on the fly, but also the actual classes themselves and the combo system that the game uses. The Paladin is really, really satisfying, the chaining attacks. I'm not too keen on the fact that it sticks to enemies and you can't run around them smacking them in the face, but some of the other classes you can. But the combat system with the combos is absolutely awesome. Reminds me of Age of Conan, but a really refined version. And the worst thing, I'd have to say, it pisses me off when I'm seeing people just stood still, staring at the Atlas. I don't know if you've noticed that, but when you go down the ramp from the tutorial area, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people just staring up at this globe, it just looks a bit freaky. So that's the end of this week's Tea and Toast. We hope you've enjoyed it. As always, if you've any suggestions, please do drop me and David a tweet and we'll try to get back to you in 200 characters or less. If you like what you just heard, please do hit the subscribe button or leave a comment below. We'll see you next week.
Every nation in creation has its favorite drink. France is famous for its wine, its beer in Germany. Turkey has its coffee, and they serve it blacker than ink. Russians go for vodka, and England loves its tea.